welcome to episode 5 of the PFedu podcast. We're going to flip the switch, so to speak, on today's episode. I have my staff here, Peyton, Josh, and Tristan, and they're going to be interviewing a special guest today, Kevin Hollabaugh. So we're going to flip it around. They're going to ask me questions, and we'll see how this goes. So if you hear any loud noises in the background, they're building something in the room next to us, so apologize for that. But outside of that, with no further ado, our special guest today, Kevin Hollabaugh. All right, who's taking the floor first?
I'll go first. So what is your, summarize your background with strength and conditioning for us, please?
This feels weird because they all know the answers. I was hoping you guys would ask questions that nobody knows the answers to, but
Oh, I got you.
try to come up with those. But I'll start with Josh's question. So, the quick and dirty version of this answer is, I started as an athletic training student at UC. When I was hurt myself, I just thought about why can't we use the weight room to kind of keep people out of the training room? How do we keep people off of training tables? And I got a lot more interested in kind of strength and conditioning and what it can do and how you can manipulate the body, how you can improve somebody's performance on the field, as well as just like general health. And I think from that interest, I had made a very bad life choice, and I decided to switch out of athletic training after 3 years in it, thanks to my great academic advisor's advice at the university. And went into exercise science, and then from there graduated with that degree, did an internship, and then from an internship that turned into a GA at the University of South Florida. Came back to Cincinnati, worked for a small business, went to IU Health, opened their sports performance facility for them, then worked for St. Vincent over in Indianapolis, worked with a ton of elite level athletes there. It was a great holistic learning environment, similar to what we try to create here. And then from there, moved back home to Cincinnati and opened ProForce. So about a 12-year run now that it's been as a strength and conditioning coach, and I've been to multiple places across the country to do so, and I've learned from a lot of really, really smart people. So I've been gracious in that ability to be able to do that. So hope that answers your question. No?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Why did you want to open up your own business? Like, what was the reasoning behind that?
I'll give the honest and truthful answer here. So when I worked for IU Health, they had mentioned, hey, we see you as kind of management material, so if you want to move up the corporate ladder, you should get your MHA degree and we can move you up the food chain in the hospital. Yeah, why not? That sounds great. Like, I think all of us look at strength conditioning, and who can actually say they know a strength coach that has retired a strength coach? That doesn't happen, right? So looking at it from that lens, I was like, well, this might be my opportunity to get out eventually, right? Because do I see myself as coaching athletes when I'm 60 years old? I don't know what that looks like now, but at the time I didn't. So I pursued my MHA degree because of that. And honestly, when we made the decision to move back to Cincinnati to be closer to the family, it was try to use my MHA degree to get a medical sales job or something with a hospital. And I was interviewed by every orthopedic director in the city. And they were all in agreement, like, your resume is great, but we don't know where to put you. Like, you have a very specialized skill set. And by that time, I had been back for 2 weeks and hadn't made a single dime. So I had a contact from St. Vincent that I was training remotely for them in Cincinnati, and it just reached out and said, hey, I'm back in Cincinnati if you want to start training. So that's how ProForce actually started, is it was one client because I wasn't making any money doing anything else. And then one client led into two led into three, and it's morphed into this thing now that I never would have imagined in my life that I would have been able to create. But I think because of what I've learned along the way, whether it be in a small business or in a large hospital setting, like how to create a culture, how to create a really good product and training program that produces results for athletes. I think that's what led to this. And I know I've mentioned to each of you individually at times, it's weird, like when you have a plan in place and you think that's what your life is going to go down, like it's all about, at the end of the day, and I don't preach this a lot, but it's all about like God has a plan for you and you don't know what the hell it is. And at the end of the day, it's He puts you where He wants you to be and how you can affect the most lives. And I've always said my entire life, like at the end of the day, I just want to affect as many lives positively as possible. And when you all made that video for me for my last birthday, that brought tears to my eyes because I actually saw fruits of my labor. It was like, wow, this many people know I care about them. And that was huge for me because I feel like I'm carrying out work that's higher than just my purpose and what I'm doing. So I'm going to have a lot of long-winded answers. I'm sorry. So.
Are you happy with the new renovation space? How do you feel about it? What are your thoughts? Are you excited? Do you think it's going to bring in more clientele? Lots of questions thrown at you at once.
I think I can speak for Josh and I both that this renovation exceeded all expectations.
Yes.
I mean, it was a hard decision to make because when you're looking at it from a business aspect, like, okay, let's renovate and move into a bigger space when we're told to shut down and we don't bring in no money. Like, we're not bringing in any money, so let's just move forward and let's renovate and move into a bigger space with a higher lease.
Just do it anyway.
I think for me, when we were looking at it, I just kept staring at the space we were supposed to move into. And in a time of crisis, you're always looking for what's next and how to move forward. And I saw that's moving forward because it's what we were supposed to do. And if I look back on, we're doing everything we were supposed to do previously. So I hope and I expect us to continue to grow as we have. Now, that's open-ended. I don't know if that's going to happen. I hope it happens. But I'm more than happy with how the renovation turned out. And I think I just got tired of looking at the boxes of new equipment sitting there, knowing that I couldn't return them. It's not that easy to get my money back on just all the equipment sitting there. So I was like, and Josh and I really just run out of things to do. It was create online training programs. We knocked all that out for the next 8 weeks. We had enough time set aside to do our weekly online calls. And it was like, well, we have nothing else to do. Let's keep ourselves active. And we got some really good grip strength out of it at the end of the day. So pulling turf up and laying rubber and holding drywall up, that was, and the number one thing that kept coming up with the reno between Josh and I was, how is this going to take 3 days? Because we had scheduled 3 days on the schedule and it took us over 40 at the end of the day. But the space looks great. I'm super excited about it. I personally feel like we have one of the nicest places in the city, if not the Midwest now. So I would hope that would bring in a little bit more people that would be like, well, I want to go there because it's super nice. Like it's, and we'll continue to find ways to continue to make it nicer and so forth. But so yeah, I'm happy.
So we just renovated our facility. We have an overcare facility that's now on the front of our building. I know when you were at IU Health, you kind of had the full integration of those two things working together. How do you plan to try and integrate that here?
Well, I mean, not to knock anybody, but at IU Health it was more of what didn't work. Mm-hmm. It was at St. Vincent what worked. And I think that's a testament to, like, the IU Health facility doesn't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. One was overhead was just too high, but the integration there was a PT office in the building, and we had sports performance. I didn't really ever talk to the PTs that were in that office, and they didn't really ever bring their athletes out onto the training floor. Where at St. Vincent, it was, when I did an evaluation, like, there were many times where, as you guys know, like, if we're doing an FMS or we're doing an eval and somebody has pain, we need to refer them to a specialist at that point because they're painful with something. We can't really diagnose or treat. Pain can treat a little bit, but that gets gray. And I know you can't diagnose. So getting them into the care spectrum as quickly as possible and getting clearance from that care. So what would happen is, like, if I'm doing an evaluation, I have pain on an athlete, I could immediately walk them over to a PT or an athletic trainer and have them say, hey, here's where I'm having an issue. Can I get your guidance on how we need to proceed? That was great. Or having the PT or the trainer or the doctor come over to me and say, so-and-so is going to be on your schedule next week. Here's their medical notes. Here's what I want you to do with them. Here's their care plan. That was immensely invaluable. Like, imagine not only are you actively kind of honing in on your program and your system development as a strength coach, but now you get to have input from people who are leading experts on the medical field and to be able to ask those questions. And I think that's why we have such a robust progression and regression system here, and why we do so well with return to play athletes is I've already had most of those questions answered. But to answer your question is kind of how I see it evolving here is, I think one is there's always going to be a presence of a physical therapist or at least an athletic trainer from the NovaCare team that we can walk right over to and ask. I know I have very clear and quick access that I can just text any or a few of the UC health doctors and get quick and dirty answers on people, or I can get somebody already. If you come in today, well, not today, but if you come in to see us and you're training, or you call me and you say, hey, I roll my ankle, right? We can get you seen through a healthcare provider like that, like super quick now, where before it was, well, you got to call on schedule. And to have that access of care for our clientele, I think it's just a further separation for us. So, did that answer your question?
Yep. So, continuing, this is kind of out of order, but I just thought of it, with the renovations. So, I've been here for close to 2 years. Peyton's been here for almost half a year. Tristan's been here for a little bit under a year. Walk us through your first year of ProForce up to now. What do those facility transitions look like?
God, they don't even compare. Like, looking back on it, it's like, and I know when I first started, when we first opened our doors, it's very hard as an entrepreneurial thought mind and as a business owner to not compare, right? You're always comparing yourself to everybody else. It's hard to ignore competition. And I think when I first started, I struggled so much with tuning others out. And you just always look at the best and the brightest and you go, well, how the hell did they ever get there? Like, I want to be there. And you want to be there now. And I think far too often business owners fall trap to, I have to have the latest and greatest and I have to have everything that everybody else has. And they jump there too soon. And then that's when you get in trouble. Like, the number one rule of business is keep your overhead as low as possible and your profit up. And I think for us, every year, it seems like every year we've done a renovation or moved into a new space. And I know our clients that have been with us can attest to that. But it's really been up to our clientele to tell us when to move and when to grow. And I've stuck true to that the entire time. And I think you guys can attest to it, especially Josh being here the longest. It's just seeing the growth and the amount of time that you've been with us. Won't you attest to that? Like,
Oh, yeah.
We've grown when our clients tell us, when they say, so where can I do this? Because there's no space for it anymore. Or when parents look at you and you go, it's getting a little tight over there. Like, that's when you know, hey, well, I got to make some changes. I know for us, one of the big changes in our current renovation was we need space to do dedicated speed and agility work, tried and true to our program, not having to change it when the indoor facility is busy. And I banged my head up against that wall for the 3 years we've been in here, because it's, as a business owner, do I want that expense? Do I think it's going to bring in more revenue if we can open up these later hours when the facility is busy? Because yes, it's nice to have that turf lane dedicated for speed and agility now, but it's really only for what, 3 or 4 months out of the year? Mm-hmm. But those 3 to 4 months out of the year are a busy season. So you have to take calculated risk here at all times. And those of you watching the video aspect of this, like that calendar tells us what to do. So that you have to have a plan for everything. And going back to your question about like how the facility has changed, well, step one for us was we opened up inside of a fitness center. Was phase one. Like I was lucky enough that we were supposed to open up in an indoor facility such as this one. Things didn't work out, and we were kind of rescued or allowed to open. And it's kind of funny because we've come back around. Like our big facility is in very close to where we originally started in our smallest facility. And the big headache there was I think once we got to a certain number of clientele, it was hard to operate amongst the other gym members who were just going in and out, right?
I was about to say, because I remember that, because I started, like, that was in an 8-month period where I took a semester off and I started working out at that facility, and that was the room that I really liked to work out in there.
And it was gone.
And then certain days and certain times I'd get off work and I'd go in there, and then some people would be in there and the door would be shut, and I'd be like, dude, why can't I get in there right now? And they're like, oh, they're training people. I'm like, oh, well, that's lame. Now we're here, and here we are.
So it's interesting how everything has come full circle in that capacity, and I think from there, I made really good acquaintance of an owner of a PT facility in the city, and I was like, well, let's integrate, let's do this St. Vincent model, right? And then we very quickly realized, as quickly as I was growing, that this was not going to be an advantageous relationship because his space was too small. We talked about getting a bigger space, but neither one of us wanted to make the jump to a bigger space, and then ultimately it just ended up being, well, I'm just going to go find my own bigger space. And then that bigger space is kind of where Tristan first met me as an intern in Blue Ash, and once again things didn't quite work out with our business partners there, so we ended up lucky enough that we found this facility inside of Cincy Sports Nation, and what started as probably not even 2,000 square feet before we moved the net out, right? Mm-hmm. We ended up at 2,300 square feet. Now we have 6,500 square feet that we can move a net back and sprint over 100 yards. So it's really cool to see the progression of it. And like, I can't even, when we stood in the old space just in this building, I can't even understand how we trained the athletes we did in that space. Just standing in it, because you're like, wow, this is so small. Like, and I think
you can really see it in the flip the switch video too that we
right.
just like that we did. You can see like we can all fit in like this one little area, and you can see all of us so well. And then in the new one, it's like
we had to stay close, otherwise you wouldn't see us.
Yeah.
So I think that's a testament to, and once again, like our clients deemed that necessary, right? Because I think as we look at the continued growth of the company, hopefully that it's like we want to get more teams in here. We want Milford High School to be able to use our facilities here because their facilities aren't up to par. And then once again, like continued relations with like Cincy Swish, Cup, different baseball organizations, like to be able to offer team training where we can actually do it instead of having to alter it, I think is key.
Cool.
What else we got?
I think you answered all of our questions. We know so much about you already. It's hard to ask questions for people.
Yeah.
Other people.
I would say I was kind of hoping you guys would ask something about my athletic career, but
I was gonna ask about baseball because I feel like a lot of I remember one time like some of the high school baseball kids were like, "Wait, you played baseball?" I feel
that
like they
really
didn't know
annoyed
that.
me that day. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie. I went over and threw with somebody, and then I came back. Somebody was like, "Did you play baseball? You look like you can throw." Yeah, I played baseball.
It's like, oh boy.
Why do you think I love baseball and training baseball players? And 80% of our clientele is baseball.
Okay, so tell us about that then. Tell us about your baseball background, so everyone.
I feel like I just asked a question of myself.
Well,
I was gonna say like the question that we kind of talked about, like what kind of led you to this point of where you're at now, coaching, kind of through the sports that you played, so on and so forth. Because I know we talked about that, and we talked about like the different sports we played, and so on and so forth. So, like, along those lines.
I was a terrible baseball player, in all honesty. Like, I don't think I was very good at all. I mean, I was lucky enough to get some, like, JUCO scholarships offered, but I really don't see myself as a great baseball player. The thing with me is growing up, I think I've told some of you guys, like, I was a fat child. And I think that's, if we're looking at different things, like, that's brought about a lot of, like, body issues for me in my life. I was made fun of a lot. I was bullied. And really until, I'd say, late freshman year is when I started to grow. And then because I grew, the fat kind of went away. It's one of those things, it's like you're growing, but you're not shooting up. And once I went up, everything kind of fixed itself. But I was a very late bloomer. I was told by a lot of people to quit playing baseball. I was bad. And then, honestly, it was one coach really two coaches. So, like, Bill Romanowski was his name. I remember getting placed on his team, and that kind of changed everything because he didn't just, like, cast me aside and say, you're not playing. He tried to develop me, and, like, they tried to help me find what position best suited me instead of saying, go play right field so we can hide you. And that led to me kind of learning, okay, I can play first base now. And then from first base, it was, well, Kevin's really good at catching stuff, so why don't we just put him in the middle of the infield and teach him how to throw? So then I became good at second base, and I could play third base, and I could play shortstop. And it made me very well-rounded. And then as I kind of continued to progress a little bit, it was like, oh, I can actually run a little bit now. So now he can play in the outfield. And him not giving up on me and casting me aside really helped me develop and kind of build a self-esteem. And it's the reason how he treated me is how I try to treat every athlete that comes through our doors, and it's kind of why I coach the way I do. The other aspect of that is, like, I had a private hitting coach named Brian Conley, who's a head coach locally at a high school now. Like, he never gave up on me either. Like, he's the reason I got some JUCO scholarship offers coming out of high school. Is I didn't really play in high school. I was cut my freshman year, my sophomore year. And those of you who know me, like, you guys know I don't give up. Like, I just fight. I fight and I fight. And I didn't give up, so then I played a little bit my junior year. Didn't have bad numbers, actually fairly decent when I got to play. Senior year, same thing. I had fairly decent numbers when I got to play. And Brian was nice enough to put me in touch with some JUCO coaches, and they offered me scholarships and so forth. And that didn't fit what I wanted to do academically, so I didn't go down that route. But that, like, those two people really helped shape and mold the way I coach and I interact with our athletes. And it's what fuels my fire to touch other people's lives and to benefit other athletes daily. And I love seeing that underdog become the top dog. Nothing makes me happier. Like, than working with an athlete who didn't make their team and they come back and now they're a starter. Like, that excites me a lot, getting those phone calls. So.
Cool. Who's your favorite out of the three of us? No, I'm just kidding. Don't answer that.
Josh.
Oh, I knew that.
That was easy.
Yeah.
I feel like that was an easy answer.
Yeah, that was. You didn't even have to think about it.
I don't have
Dang
a
it,
favorite
Tristan.
child. Put it that way. I love them all equally. How's that?
Oh, boy.
Much better. Thank you.
Is that a better answer?
Yes.
I just knew that one would piss you off. I said Josh. So yeah. You guys got anything else that people might want to know? I feel like Tristan has one. He's afraid to ask it.
No, I'm trying to think
Oh,
of one.
okay.
That was my one that I was thinking about, and then it finally, like, got the wording down. I was trying to think of another one.
How many certifications do you have?
Yeah.
They're staring at my certification wall right now, which is literally covered. Peyton's counting them, and she'll let you know in a minute.
13. Could be more.
Well, some of those are just framed awards too.
You're
Well,
not supposed to say that.
10, because you minus 3 of them.
Oh.
2 are degrees, 1's an award.
Oh, okay. Well,
Oh.
there you
So
go.
there's 10 up there. Yeah. 10. So there you go. 10 of them. How many do you have?
5 and 1.5 degrees.
1.5 degrees. All right, guys. Well, that wraps up today's podcast. If
Thank you for letting us interview you.
you're welcome.
It's a good time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.